joining us here today. Remote work is certainly the norm for many of us right now, and the BIM 360 platform can help manage that as far as document management is concerned. And as Daniela mentioned, BIM 360 Docs itself is the foundation of the entire BIM 360 platform. Now, there's a lot of information out there and a lot of ways that BIM 360 can be used depending on the role and the role you play in your company as well as your industry in general. Just know that we'll only be scratching, the surface here today, and my goal is to give you an overview of the document management module in BIM 360, otherwise known as Docs, with a focus toward discussing how it can be used in construction document management, as Daniela and Annalisa both mentioned. So, as we'll cover today, BIM 360 Docs allows you to share, view, markup, and manage your construction drawings, documents, models through the full life cycle of the project, from schematic design through construction administration. It also provides access to centralized project information in one place, anytime and from anywhere. All companies, projects, and members are managed in a centralized administration area so that you can ensure that the right people have the access to the right information and the right tools. And ideally, if used properly, it should reduce errors, help you make more confident decisions, and improve project outcomes. So before we get into BIM 360 Docs itself, I wanted to share with you what our Autodesk construction team has deemed the quote-unquote 4 essential traits of successful construction workflows. Now, I know these terms that we're going to see here certainly don't cover everything, and it's certainly distilling the process of what construction document management is in reality. But it's a good starting point to, at the very least, I think, lead us into how BIM 360 can start to help streamline your construction document management workflows. So they are, standardization is the first one, which is the idea that a central data platform shared by all allows you to standardize your workflows, and this standardization in turn reduces both redundancy and risk. The next is collaboration, which is the idea that good communication between all project stakeholders allows for everyone to be involved throughout the entire process and allows for ongoing feedback between those stakeholders. Automation, where it's possible, will help reduce the administrative burdens by streamlining some of the communications and tasks. And part of this is the ability to notify the relevant party or parties when some type of action, whether it be approval or comments or otherwise, is needed. And then finally, integration, which is the idea that connecting multiple technology platforms, which you may be using to manage, your processes now, will help reduce errors and entering data multiple times. So, as you might imagine, and as you'll see in this webinar, hopefully, BIM 360 can help meet these 4 essential traits and certainly much more. So, as I alluded to in the previous slide, BIM 360 strives to remove the need for standalone applications, as it helps to unify your project data in one location, and it provides tools necessary for the full project lifecycle. BIM 360 is available in 4 subscription offerings. We have Docs, we have Design, Coordinate, and Build. Here you can, as I kind of walk through this, you can kind of see some of the key capabilities of each one. In addition to the 4 main products, there are also a couple add-on products over here to the right, some of which you'll see, like I said, some of which you'll see over here on the right. There's additional that you can look up as well, but these are the ones that I wanted to highlight here. Docs itself, Docs is the document management product. Think of that as a file server in the cloud, but with additional functionality. Docs supports the entire platform, as I mentioned. It is the core component of the BIM 360 platform. It supports all the other products since it houses all of the project information used by each of the other products, or modules as they're called by Autodesk. Design is the quote-unquote collaboration product, which allows multiple team members from multiple sites or offices to work at the same time on Revit models or 3D files in the cloud. We'll be covering that more in detail in next week's webinar. Coordinate is used for constructability reviews and clash detection, and we will be covering this one in more detail in the webinar in 2 weeks' time. And then there's Build, which is geared more toward the construction management, both in the field and on site. For mobile access, there is the Field app that you can download and tie into the platform. But Build basically provides teams with the ability to manage RFIs and submittals, as well as execute quality and safety management programs during the construction process. And like I said, there's a couple add-on products that can be tied to different modules in BIM 360, either directly through BIM 360 or through add-on integrations. Most of what you see here is tied to Build in some way to help the construction management in the form of planning, laying out coordinates on the site, or even managing materials and assets. One of these additional products is Assemble, and that will be covered in our 5th and final webinar in this series at the end of the month. So, like I said, today we're going to take a look at some of the key capabilities of BIM 360 Docs, and I'll walk you through the interface in the browser a little bit. Also touch on some more specific information as it relates to construction document management in terms of constructability reviews, RFIs, markups and issues, and bid management. So the first topic I want to cover here is project setup and user management. Let me just highlight some of the key elements, and I'll quickly show you where to find some of these tools in the browser. I'll do that kind of as we walk along here. So as far as project setup and site management go, you can manage unlimited projects in a single account. You can create, apply different templates for folder structures, for transmittal sent from docs, for documenting issues, and a number of different items, basically allowing for a faster project startup. And you can create approval workflows for internal and external reviews. So, for example, you can create approval workflows for internal reviews that the entire team can use. This can be set up for 1-step up through 5-step approval workflows. So let me just show you that here quickly, just show you where to find something like that. So if you were to go into your project administration, and I'll walk through the hub a little bit more, but I just want to show you what I mean by approval workflow. So if I go to reviews here and create an approval workflow, I actually have 1-step through 5-step approval. So you can go down through the chain, through the company, or through multiple offices and set up approval processes for any particular type of task, and then assign those two things in BIM 360. So again, I'll get back into that here in a minute as we walk through the user interface, but I just wanted to kind of show that as I mentioned it. So as far as user management goes, BIM 360 is actually designed to be used with third parties, so consultants, other firms. So, we're given the capabilities to essentially manage all of our users, their roles, and the companies they're associated with, all within BIM 360. The first thing you would do is add members to your site and then invite them to a project or projects. You can assign preloaded roles to your users based on their station in the office hierarchy. But more importantly, though, the roles themselves have different folder access permissions assigned to them. Again, we'll get into all of this here in a minute. You can also assign members to a team so that you can control permissions for the whole company in one shot as opposed to individually. All of these kind of permission control options give us a granular control over the security of files and the models housed on the BIM 360 site. We can set 5 different permission levels based on any or all of those categories, and we can actually even assign permissions based on, let's say, the company for everyone listed under that company. Then we can adjust the individual permissions to give someone in that company more or even less permissions if need be. It really just comes down to what workflow in terms of setting up permissions works best for your project setup. So additionally, to help further organize the doc structure, we can define team workspaces in order to provide separate folders for each team's data, and of course set the permissions for those folders as well. More on that, more on that kind of the team folders that are associated with each other during next week's webinar when we discuss BIM 360 design. So let me hop back to the browser here. All right, so let's walk through the browser interface a little bit, just to give you an idea of how docs function. So right here is the drop down that we have. This is between different sites and projects. So you can see here I have access to a number of different projects in our site, and actually I can change the account itself. So let's say, for example, you are on the on a construction team, or you're a consultant, and you work with the same architect or engineers. They host their own sites. Here's where you can actually toggle between the different sites if you've been invited to the projects. and then you can access the different projects themselves that you've been invited to, depending on which site you've been invited to. Over here, this little icon here is what has been deemed the waffle. Many are calling, a lot of people are calling it that, or even I think some people refer to it as the hamburger. In any event, this is where you can toggle between the different modules that you have access to. So you'll see here, we're only talking about document management here a little bit and some of the admin controls today. You can see here I have access to a number of these different modules that I had just mentioned in one of the previous slides. The different products are available to us. So depending on what subscription you have to what different products is what you'll see here whenever you click on the waffle here. So if I toggle to my account min module here, you'll see this is where I can control much of what I had just discussed. So here we can actually add new projects. We can create and invite members here. Here's where we can select, if I go into here, I can just show you, so I can add members. You can see all the members that have been added to our project now. As for companies, here you can see we have a number of just basic generic quote-unquote Microsol companies where we've created some projects, and then we have various members added to them just for the sake of kind of showing you how some of this works. So again, you can use this as one layer of structure for organizing BIM 360 docs and your permissions, and then we also have, as I mentioned, roles here as well. Let's see if this loads up. Yep. Okay. So here you can see there's a number of pre-baked roles already built into BIM 360. You can actually create additional if necessary, but I think there's 36 that pretty much come pre-baked in here. So they're going to cover a lot of the ground that you would need for the roles. And more importantly, over here is where we can set controls over to which modules different roles have access to. The little yellow-orange wheel that you see here is basically admin roles, whereas these are more member roles, and where we can control the read-write access for our members. So if I were to go in here and add a member, you can see here we have default companies, and if I were to go into, let's say this one, you can see here where this is basically myself has been assigned the role of architect. So obviously I'm not touching on all the tools that are available to us. I'm just trying to highlight some of the more important capabilities. But I just want to at least give you an idea of what what kind of tools we have at our disposal for account admin and organizing BIM 360 docs. So let's go back to the actual docs module itself. So if I click on I got to go back to my project first. So I'm going to click on this advanced project that I have open, and I'm going to click on my waffle here and go to document management. So I want to briefly discuss how docs is actually structured for us. So let's see, there we go. So as you can see, we actually have two main categories. Let me condense these. Two main categories of folders. We have plans and project files. When you create a project, all you are going to see are these two folder types. Let me expand them once again. I've actually created a handful just to show you a very basic folder organization. But I mentioned on the previous slide that you can set up templates for folder structures when setting up a new project. You would actually do that by, when you create a new project, you would select a project you want to be a template through the project creation process, and would automatically load a file structure like this based into your template. So if I've created a template for all the different files that I want to have in every single project as it moves forward, I can create that template, and then as soon as I create a new project, I from a drop down in the project creation process, I select that template, and it gives me this folder structure here, for example. Obviously, every office and potentially every project are different, so there may be different ways to create your folder structure. As you'll see next week, you can actually tie these folders to the information created and consumed in BIM 360 design, and that ties into the team concept of folders that I had mentioned a few minutes ago. We can also so I had mentioned you can set permissions from within the account admin or the project admin page. We can also set permissions directly from our BIM 360 docs. So if I click on the ellipse next to any one of these particular folders, so let's say, for example, this one here, you see where I hover over this, the ellipse pops up. I'm actually able to change permissions directly from here as well. So you can see here we've only got Daniela and myself added to this folder. this right here, I at one point, I believe, let me try, oops, sorry. Yeah, so if what I could do essentially is if I invited somebody else to this project, as soon as I invite them, I can actually select from my different folder controls and give them a certain level of access. You'll see how that will give us a little bit more control when we get into when I talk about the RFI or actually more to the point, bid management toward the end of this presentation, how creating basically an umbrella permission level versus then kind of going in granularly and editing permission levels for each individual person will kind of change who has access to what folders and the like. So and then the way that will work essentially is if I were to give access to one of these particular files to just one person I invited to the project, when they were log in, if they don't have permissions to view or access any of the other files, so let's say I give the civil folder access to somebody else on the team, but nothing else, when they log into BIM 360 themselves and view docs, they're only going to see that one file that I give them access to. They're not going to see all of these other files that we have built in here. So it helps, again, it's basically a control mechanism that helps structure the permissions and a way for us to control our documents. Let me provide a little bit more definition as to the differences between let me compress these one more time, the plans versus the project files, the two default folder types that we get here. So think of plans folder as the digital equivalent of contract drawings for a project. The way it's been envisioned by Autodesk, you really only want to have 2D or 3D formats of construction-related documents. So for example, this is where I tell most clients to house either their PDF files, their copies, or 2D or 3D copies of the model and sheet views for different submissions, like a 50% submission, 100%, so on and so forth. For construction document management, you would be mostly using the plans folder, and that's where we'll be living for most of this presentation. You would use the project files folder for pretty much anything else: design data, cut sheets, photos, reports, schedules, budgets, various documents, and on and on. Most importantly, though, for anybody using Revit or Civil 3D, you want to make sure that your Revit models or even AutoCAD files, you want to make sure that your Revit models, AutoCAD files, or Civil 3D files, which you're collaborating on, are all saved in the project files. This is because the plans folder, at least for now, doesn't support collaboration. So if I expand this a little bit here just to show you, I have a Revit model and an AutoCAD file here under project files housed right in here. So this allows for collaboration and multiple people to access these files. All right, so let me go to my, oops. So now let's get into the next topic I want to cover, a little bit publishing information to the cloud in BIM 360 and then viewing that information. So first of all, BIM 360 docs supports 60 plus file types. So pretty much any file type that you'd be using in the design and construction lifecycle. It provides unlimited storage, so no need to worry about bumping up against the file size capacity or the like. As you might imagine, uploading and sharing project files are the first steps in establishing a successful document management process for your project. We have various upload and download options, one of which is called the desktop connector. That it's actually a free download, which allows you to open, save, move, rename, and delete files from BIM 360 directly to your desktop and vice versa if necessary. It essentially acts as a drive on your computer that can be accessed through Windows. We can even capture information or attributes, as Autodesk refers to them, from your PDFs using quote-unquote OCR, and that stands for optical character recognition. What that breaks down to is, for example, when you upload your PDFs to BIM 360, you can create a template that will read the sheet number, the drawing title, etc. Whatever you tell it to, it will automatically read that information and name it correctly within Docs as you upload more and more PDFs with that same layout. So if I just toggle back to my browser here real quick, I'll show you. So I won't show you the process. I won't go down that wormhole here, but so for each one of these sheets, so the first sheet that I PDF, you can see here, this is a PDF file. I loaded this first A101 sheet in here. It gave me the opportunity to grab those attributes for the sheet name, sorry, the sheet number, the sheet name. That's all I grabbed for this particular process, but you can grab multiple. You can define multiple categories that you want, and then as you bring in the rest of the sheets, you can say use this template, and it'll read that information for you, and it'll categorize it correctly and label it correctly in BIM 360. So it's pretty useful in the sense that it helps streamline the upload and organization process for you. It also helps make the search functionality that we have in BIM 360 much faster and more accurate as well. So here you can see the search function here. I can start to search for text within the document itself, or even here. So let's obviously probably don't need it for 8 sheets here, but let's say we have a 100 sheet set and I just want to look up different sections or section details. I could type in section and it'll start to just filter out information there. And then once you have your files in the cloud, we actually have a couple different ways to view the information in both 2D and 3D. And we can also view these same files from anywhere via the web using our Apple or our Android devices using the same file viewer that many of you are likely familiar with if you've ever accessed any Autodesk files via the web browser using various applications. So the most important thing that I want to point out here is that the use of software is not required. Let's say that you have a project manager who wants to review a Revit model or sheets being created in Revit, but they don't actually use Revit itself. If they have access to BIM 360 docs, the project manager can view the models in the sheets, and they can also use markup tools, create issues that will be assigned to those people working on the model. I'll show you how that works closer to the end of the webinar here. But the main point is that if we have project managers or principals in the office that aren't using the software itself, they can actually view and review information and make comments and communicate with the team directly through the browser. So let me walk through how some of this works here with you. So as I mentioned, I have some of these folders established here in Docs. You can see here, if I were to click on any one of these particular files, I mentioned a number of different upload options and the like. So you can see here, I have this button right here that will allow me to upload files. If I click on a file specifically, it brings up this additional ribbon over here where I can export the file, I can move it, copy, share it, I can delete it. I can even edit I was talking about the attributes for the template that are red. I can edit those if it comes in incorrectly. And I can even download the source file, submit it for review, create transmittals, a number of tools. I'm not necessarily going to get into those here, but just give you an idea of all the different options that we have to us for kind of uploading and downloading files into BIM 360. This is where I can tell, like I said, this is where I can also edit and tell Docs where to reread those attributes and change them if necessary. I can also use the desktop connector that I mentioned to publish files to Docs. Once I have the files in the cloud, I can simply click on that checkbox here, and these tools will pop up as I just mentioned with the various options. And as I mentioned, we can see our files, models, PDFs, etc. by using the file viewer option simply by clicking on the file itself. So let me go down to, so if I click on, I'm going to click on the Revit model that I have loaded into here. So if I click on this, here's the 3D viewer that many of you may be used to seeing in BIM 360. So for this particular, in this particular arch model, I can toggle between 2D and 3D views here. So I can say I want to see this particular sheet. As long as they're made available in the cloud, I have access to viewing this information. So you can see here I have a number of different markup tools and viewing tools. Again, I'm going to cover that here in a little bit. And on the left, we have our markups, issues, RFIs, again, which I'll be getting into here at the end. All of this makes Docs more powerful than just that server in the cloud, as I referred to. All right, so now some of these, obviously some of these topics are going to cross-pollinate a little bit, and they should, but I want to at least talk about how document control works in Docs, and more importantly, how it can help manage and control the sharing and access of the drawings, the models, the documents that we're loading into BIM 360. Excuse me, sorry about that. You can see from this slide that I want to talk about version control and document sharing. So let's hop back into the browser that I just had open, and I'll walk through some of this with you here a little bit. So no matter what file saving method you use, version control is always going to be a hot topic. BIM 360 allows you to view the version history simply by clicking on this button over here. So you can see here's a title. So if I click on version right there, it'll bring up, basically you can view information about who updated and when. So you can see everything here is in my name, but you can see the different dates and the different times associated with the different versions here. You can also make a copy of a previous version. You can download the source file. Let's say somebody needed to download the Revit model or the AutoCAD file, or you could set make current. Just be careful. Keep in mind that this action of make current will basically essentially acts as a kill switch on all versions that followed. So if I said make current down here in version 6, it would kill 7 through 9. We can also view versions see the changes between versions by using this compare versions down here. So I think I'm going to click on version 8 and version 5. So you could select two versions, hit compare. So now and then I'm going to pick, you can see here I have a full list of all of the different views that are available to me. I'm just going to pick on this A101 sheet here and click compare. And now once this loads up, you'll see that I'm going to have some color-coded information showing the changes from one version to the other. I can toggle between either side-by-side, as you can see here, or overlay. Personal preference, of course. So you can see here, it color codes some of this information. So, and it gives me a full list of all of the changes that have been made. So you can see here, anything that's been added. So these 3 desks here, looks like some information here was all added. So that's all color coded in green. Anything that's been removed is in red. And I think that was, yep. So, I don't know sure where my red went. But anything that would have been deleted, but there were some desks in here that were deleted. I thought if these chairs had been, desks and chairs had been deleted, they would have been in red. Then anything that had been modified by any of these changes will be in yellow. Obviously, we see the whole floor slab being shown here. But in any event, this is obviously very useful for tracking changes between submissions. We've already discussed document sharing a little bit in terms of permissioning and using the desktop connector. Those are the 2 key tools for sharing documents. Permissioning especially allows you to manage and control the sharing and access to information housed in BIM 360 docs. But it's not just a matter of security of the information. A structured document control process helps construction project teams coordinate better, resolve their issues faster, and hopefully deliver projects with fewer delays, lower costs, and less rework. One other method I want to mention in regards to document sharing is what is called the public share link. This public share link is an option that can be turned on and off by the project admin. I can show you that here real quick. So under project admin, services, reviews, advanced settings, my apologies. Advanced settings, I can toggle this on and off. What this does is once this option is turned on in the project, you can actually share files with individuals who are not members of your project. So I can send a link from BIM 360 to a consultant who does not have access to BIM 360 project or any projects, or specifically my project. They'll get a link in their email to view or download the files or folders that I'm sharing with them, but they're only read-only, and none of the files in BIM 360 can actually be modified or altered by my consultant that I'm sending that to. All right, so let's get into, so now we've actually looked at how to get our model, how to get our project set up in Docs by adding members and assigning the proper permissions, as well as how to upload, share, control those files and models a little bit. So let's take a look at how we can use some of those tools for construction document management. I've mentioned a couple times now that you can think of Docs as that file server in the cloud, but more powerful. The reason being that we have a number of tools at our disposal which allow us to take our document management to the next level. So we're going to cover markups, issues, and RFIs. So I'm going to hop back one more time into the browser here. So again, I mentioned, most of your PDFs and a lot of the work that you'll be doing with construction document management is going to be housed in the plans folder. So let me just go to my 100% DD folder that I've created here. And again, these are just PDFs that have been uploaded that we can use, but let me just go into any one of these. As soon as we go into our viewer, so I'm just viewing one of those 2D sheets in PDF form. Over here I have my tools that are my markups, my issues, and my RFIs, and then I have history here as well, just giving you an idea, basically another version of version history, an access point to that. So Markups is one of those tools that we have access to, and you basically, it gives you the ability to create markups directly in BIM 360. If you've ever marked up PDFs in Adobe or Bluebeam or some other application, the same ideas apply to BIM 360, but the key difference is obviously that we are only using one application here in the cloud, BIM 360. As we're marking up the drawings, files, models already saved in the cloud and docs, it gives us what Autodesk kind of refers to as that one source of truth. So having that anytime, anywhere access to this information. So I can use the markup tools for red lines during the design process or during pre-construction, or I can even use them to mark up and discuss as-builts, after the project has been completed. You can see over here on the right, I have tools for drawing, for text, for callouts, for bubbling, dimensioning, various options for markups. Same tools that most of you would be accustomed to in any type of browsing viewer, for example. And then I also have a number of different tools for viewing the drawing or file that I'm looking at itself. So we have pan, we have zoom, we have our measure, we have rotate down here. Any number of tools that we usually find in online viewers, like I said. So, again, I'm not gonna belabor the point here and go through all of these tools for you. I just want to show you where we can find some of this information and kind of from a 10,000 foot view how we can start to use this information. We can also set our markups to private or published. This allows me to either share the comments with the team, keep them to myself, or even hold on to them as I'm making edits until I am then ready to share them with the team. So if I wanted to, you can see here I have two markups here. If I wanted to create a new markup, what I can do is I can grab, let's just say I'm going to bubble something else. I want to call out something over here in this corner. As soon as I use my tool, it allows me to then save my markup. I don't know how this was lagging on me yesterday. So basically, once this finally saves, it'll be another markup. As soon as I view this particular file, this PDF, then I will be able to see all the different markups, depending on what access I give to everybody. So again, myself, I can see all of them because I've created them. But let's say, for example, somebody else on the project, like Daniela, logged in and she didn't have the permissions, and it was set to private. She would see basically this markup here and this one if I set it to published as well, as opposed to she wouldn't see this dimensional markup that I have here because I've set it to private. I could always release this. So if I wanted to, and it's saving, it's got me locked out. So from this drop down, I could set to private or published. So I could change this from private to published because we're waiting for this to happen. I'm getting this lag here. So the next tool we have at our disposal is our issues. So issues allow us to pin a specific spot in our files to create a topic or ask a question. But more importantly, we can actually assign these issues to people on a team, and they will receive an email notification that the issue needs to be addressed. So if I go to click on issues, so here's my next tool. I guess again, you can see here that I have a couple different created right here. So what I do is I click on create issue. I'll drop a pin in right here. And then here I can just name this test issue. But most importantly, like I said, I can select from the team members that are in here. So I'll select myself there. I can select a due date, say, this Friday. I can enter a whole slew of information about this particular issue itself, or I can just create a description. But basically, you only need the title, its status, and then I should assign it to somebody. So as soon as I create this issue, obviously it's not populated with much information, but I can attach other files, pictures, so on and so forth. I can create a very long-winded description here if necessary. Essentially, at the end of the day, what I do is if I click on create here, the other email, that other Nick Marchek will get my personal email address. Will get an email sent to me saying there has been an issue created in BIM 360. It sends you a link that you can access that issue. and then you can basically see what the issue is, and then you can close out that issue, make comments, send it back to the reviewer, so on and so forth. So you'd be able to track these issues either through the files themselves. So again, here, if I click into a file, I can see all 3 of the issues that have been created here, or I can also track them in BIM 360 docs through issues. So you're going to see here even more issues just due to the fact that we've created a number of issues throughout the project on various views and files and models and so on and so forth. So you'll be able to track these issues and through this tab, and basically get a readout of the status of each one of these to kind of help manage this information, these issues that have been created and assigned to various people in the project. You can also create here as well, and we can export like a PDF report. So let's say you're having a construction review meeting, or something during pre-construction where there's a number of issues on what's been submitted to the people reviewing the project. You can pull a report and have that ready for the entire team for that meeting. And finally, as far as the tools go, what I want to show you is RFIs. So RFIs can actually be created in one of 2 places, one of which is in Docs, and it's a little more limited as to what you can do with it in terms of seeing kind of like a report on issues that we saw there. So there's one version of RFIs you can create in Docs. There's another version that can be created and tracked as part of BIM 360 Build. I'm not covering that today, but I just want to make everyone aware that there's kind of 2 different options there. So if I go back into my same file that we've been looking at here, this would likely be the most used tool for those of you who would be performing any kind of pre-construction tasks, such as bid management, for example. I won't get into the finer points of setting up BIM 360 docs for the bid management process, but I'll give you a quick idea of how it might work. So first, I create the bid package folder in the plan section. Let me pop back out of here like what I show here. So if I have a bid packages folder here in the plan section, then I'd basically upload my drawings into this folder. You then invite any prospective bidders to that particular folder with only with view-only permissions. And then what you would do is you could create another folder here under project files for the bid packages themselves with potentially three subfolders, one for project documents for specs and supporting information, one for pre-bid RFIs, and one for bid submissions. You could then invite all those same prospective bidders to the folder here in bid packages with upload only permission set, and this setting would carry down throughout all of the subfolders. So at this point, you'd then essentially be able to manage and control the information being sent out to the prospective bidders via this folder in plans, and then you'd be giving some management permissions to those you've invited so that they can post RFIs or even their bids once ready here in the project files. So let me once again go back quickly to this particular file and just show you the RFI process for creating them in docs themselves. So similar to markups and issues, you click on this little tool here. You can say, once this all loads up, create an RFI, and you can create RFIs that are just in draft mode, or you can actually submit them. So let me say I'm going to place an RFI. I'll have a question over here. So as soon as I do that, it activates this. I can say it's either a draft, or if I want to leave it open or leave it as not submitted just yet, or I can set it as open, create a title, and then I can assign it to any number of co-reviewers that I would want, and a due date. I won't do that again just because of what happened last time with the markup. But that's essentially how you create these are two RFIs that you see here. And if I wanted to review the RFIs, it gives me an opportunity to show you one other thing here. Our project home. So this would come with, you would have this project home tab. The project home allows you to kind of modify the different, it gives you a snapshot of the overall project itself. So you can see here I have project address, weather. The one thing that I want to show you is here's a list of all of our different issues. Here's different design packages. Again, this is part of the BIM 360 design that you'll see next week. Here's some checklists as part of BIM 360 build, but here I wanted to show you. So there's two RFIs that we just saw. Here's where you could see a full list of those RFIs as they're created as well. All right. So one last thing I wanted to mention briefly before, briefly, it goes back to one of those 4 essential traits of successful construction workflows that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, specifically integration. By connecting multiple technology platforms that help you manage the processes, we can hopefully start to reduce errors and duplicate data entries. As powerful as the BIM 360 platform is, it isn't yet going to replace all of the various applications that you use now, nor should it in my humble opinion. So for that, we have integration through open source APIs with BIM 360, which allow you to connect your project data to your, say, for example, your ERP system and other construction software solutions from a wide list of integration partners that Autodesk has. I took a quick snapshot of the landing page here, and then this itself here is the link to the web page itself. We can get this out to anybody if you would need it. Just let us know. But I believe there's currently 122 available options for integration with existing applications, and I'm sure there's more every day. So if I just pop back in here, I think I had one of these. So here in our browser, I open up the page with here's a full list of all of the different integrations we have with BIM 360. Right, yep, they're right there. So 122 options that we have here. So here from the Autodesk App Store is where you can download all of these APIs for free to connect BIM 360 to a lot of the software that you're likely using out there, in the world of construction document management.